Du stood at the window of the massive council chamber, his hands clasped behind his back. Below him, the artificial rings of the galactic hub spun slowly, their golden surfaces reflecting the light of 3 suns. After 15 years as Earth's chief diplomat, he had grown tired of this view. The council chamber buzzed with the usual mix of voices, the high-pitched tones of the Meridians, the deep rumbles of the Centaurians, and the musical notes of the spiral species. Du didn't turn around. He knew what he would see. The same circular arrangement of seats, the same condescending faces, the same subtle signs of disrespect toward the human delegation. Ambassador Li, the first speaker's voice cut through the noise. Your species continues to develop artificial intelligence at an alarming rate. The Council has decided this must be regulated. Du finally turned. His simple black suit stood out among the elaborate robes and ceremonial armor of the other species. Behind him, his team sat quietly, 3 men and 2 women, all wearing the same understated clothing. They had discussed this possibility. They were ready. Regulated, Du repeated softly. Like our quantum communications were regulated. Like our terraforming technology was regulated. Like our medical advances were regulated. The first speaker's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. The Council's wisdom in these matters is well established. Surely you see the need for careful oversight. Du walked to his seat and picked up his datapad. The motion caught everyone's attention. Usually, this was when human diplomats would begin bargaining, trying to maintain some freedom while accepting new restrictions. The council members leaned forward slightly, ready for the familiar dance. 27 times, Du said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. That's how many times Earth has compromised in the past decade. 27 times we accepted limits on our growth to maintain harmony. He looked up at the first speaker. 27 times we chose peace over progress. A murmur ran through the chamber. This wasn't following the usual script. The second speaker, a tall being with crystalline skin, raised a glowing appendage. The Council appreciates Earth's cooperation in maintaining galactic stability. We are merely asking for nothing. Du interrupted. The word fell like a stone into water, creating ripples of silence. You are asking for nothing, because we are no longer asking for your permission. He stood, and his team rose with him. Earth withdraws from these talks. All previous technology sharing agreements will be honored until their expiration dates. No new agreements will be signed. The chamber erupted. The first speaker's translator struggled to keep up with his rapid speech. Ambassador Li, this is highly irregular. The Council has not dismissed. The Council, Du said as he straightened his jacket, has no authority over Earth. Not anymore. He bowed slightly, exactly 15 degrees, the minimum that could be considered polite. His team did the same. Then they walked toward the door, their footsteps echoing in the stunned silence. Just before leaving, Du turned one last time. Humanity wished to be your partners. You chose to treat us as children. Children grow up. They leave home. They make their own way. His smile was small but genuine. Thank you for teaching us this valuable lesson. The doors closed behind the human delegation with a soft hiss. In the chamber, chaos erupted as council members realized what had just happened. Emergency signals flashed. Aides rushed to prepare response strategies. Economic advisors began calculating the impact of losing access to human markets. But in the elevator heading to their ship, Du and his team stood quietly. Yumhee, his deputy, finally broke the silence. Was it as satisfying as you imagined? She asked. Du smile widened slightly. More, he said. Much more. The elevator reached the docking level. As they walked to their ship, alerts began sounding throughout the station. The Council was declaring an emergency session. Trade computers were being updated. Security protocols were changing. Du didn't rush. Each steady step took humanity further from the Council's control. Behind him, he could hear the sound of dominoes beginning to fall. Humanity had finally grown up. The galaxy would never be the same. Han Byul Kim was eating lunch when the news broke. She sat in the busy cafeteria of Station 7, her bowl of synthesized noodles forgotten as she watched the massive display screen on the wall. The emergency broadcast kept repeating the same footage: Earth's delegation walking out of the council chamber. Around her, the station's usual quiet buzz had turned into a storm of voices. Traders from 30 different species argued, shouted, and whispered. Some rushed to their communication devices, desperately trying to contact their homeworlds. Others simply sat in shocked silence. "They really did it," said a voice beside her. Han Byul turned to see Taeho, another junior diplomat from Earth. His usual cheerful smile was replaced by a look of wonder. They actually walked away. Han Byul nodded, watching as a Meridian trader rushed past their table, nearly knocking over his chair. The massive trading floor visible through the cafeteria's glass wall was in chaos. Digital price displays flickered rapidly as markets tried to adjust to the news. "Look at the technology sector." Taeho pointed at one of the larger displays. The numbers were dropping fast. Council-approved companies were losing value by the minute as investors realized they might lose access to human innovations. Han Byul's communication device buzzed. The message was simple: maintain normal operations, be polite, say nothing about the council. Earth command. She took a deep breath and stood up. As a junior diplomat, her job was to handle trade permits and minor disputes between merchants. Today, she had a feeling those minor disputes would be anything but minor. She was right. By mid-afternoon, her office was packed. Species that normally avoided each other were standing shoulder to shoulder, all asking the same questions. Would Earth still honor its trade agreements? Would human goods still be available? Would the Council punish those who continued to trade with Earth? All existing agreements will be respected, Han Byul repeated for what felt like the 100th time. Her voice remained calm and professional, just as she'd been trained. Earth keeps its promises. A small trader, his scales changing color with anxiety, pushed forward. But what about new agreements? My world needs human medical supplies. Before Han Byul could answer, a loud alarm rang through the station. The main trading floor was being closed early, something that hadn't happened in over 50 years. Through her office window, she could see security teams moving into position as arguments broke out among the traders. "Director Kim," her computer announced, "your presence is requested in the emergency meeting room." She found the station's senior staff already gathered around the conference table. Faces of all shapes and colors showed the same mix of worry and excitement. The station director, a usually confident Centaurian, looked unusually nervous. "We have a problem," he said as Han Byul took her seat. "3 ships from minor worlds have just declared they're breaking away from Council control. They're requesting permission to dock and establish direct trade relations with Earth." The room erupted in discussion. This was unprecedented. Minor species never defy the Council openly. Han Byul's device buzzed again. This message was marked urgent. "Accept all legitimate trade requests. Maintain order. Help is coming. Earth command." She stood up, and the room fell quiet. As Earth's representative, her words suddenly carried new weight. "Earth welcomes peaceful trade with all species," she said clearly. "Let them dock." The Centaurian director nodded slowly. "So it begins," he muttered. Back in her office an hour later, Han Byul watched as the 3 ships docked. They were soon followed by 4 more, then 6. Each one carried the same message. They wanted to trade directly with Earth, without Council oversight. As the station's artificial night cycle began, she finally had a moment to think. The galaxy had changed more in one day than it had in the past century. And somehow, she was right in the middle of it. Her device buzzed one final time. This message was from Du-Won Lee himself. "Well done. Keep watching. The ripples are about to become waves." Han Byul smiled. Tomorrow would be even busier, and she was ready for it. Ambassador Jai-Ho Park sat in his office on Earth, his fingers hovering over the release button. On his screen was the largest data package ever prepared for public release. 300 years of carefully documented council manipulation. "Are you sure about this?" his assistant asked. "Once we release this, there's no going back." Jai-Ho looked at the family photo on his desk. His grandfather had been one of Earth's first space diplomats. He had always said the council was playing a long game. He had been more right than he knew. "Send it," Jai-Ho said quietly. The files went out across the galactic network. Every trading station, every diplomatic post, and every independent news service received the same package. Years of recorded meetings, secret directives, and hidden economic data, all showing how the council had deliberately kept its member species dependent. Within an hour, his screen lit up with incoming messages. The Meridian worlds were first. Their entire ruling council had reviewed the evidence of how the council had sabotaged their attempt to develop their own food production systems 50 years ago. Their response was immediate, full withdrawal from the council. Jai-Ho watched as more reactions poured in. The Centaurians discovered they had been tricked into abandoning their advanced energy research. The spiral species learned that their unsafe transportation technology had actually been more advanced than the council's own. His emergency line blinked. It was a direct call from the council itself. Ambassador Park, the first speaker's image appeared, all four eyes blazing with anger. "You have violated countless security protocols. This data was classified." "Was it?" Jai-Ho's voice remained calm. "Strange. I don't remember Earth agreeing to classify evidence of crimes against our allies. These are internal council matters." "Not anymore." Jai-Ho leaned forward. "For 3 centuries, you convinced everyone that they needed your guidance, that they were too young, too reckless, too unwise to manage their own affairs. Today, they learned the truth." Another screen showed the latest news. 3 more species had declared independence. Markets across council space were shutting down as traders scrambled to adjust to the chaos. "You don't understand what you've done," the first speaker said. "The galaxy needs order, structure, control." "No," Jai-Ho replied. "It needs freedom. The freedom to grow, to make mistakes, to learn from them." He smiled slightly. "Just like you said humans were too immature to handle." A new alert flashed across his screen. The Meridian worlds had opened their shipyards to all independent species. They were sharing their advanced construction techniques the council had forced them to abandon centuries ago. "This is your final warning." The first speaker's voice shook with rage. "Recall these transmissions or face the consequences." Jai-Ho looked at his grandfather's photo again. The old man was smiling, as if he had known this day would come. "No," Jai-Ho said simply. "We're done following your warnings. Done asking permission. Done pretending you have our best interests at heart." He straightened in his chair. "Earth isn't just walking away anymore. We're holding the door open for everyone else who wants to leave too." He ended the call before the first speaker could respond. On his screens, the number of independent worlds kept growing. Trade routes were being redrawn. New alliances were forming by the minute. His assistant rushed in with fresh data. "Sir, the Centaurians are releasing their old energy research. 3 species have already offered to help them develop it. And the spiral worlds, they're rebuilding their transport network. They're asking for Earth's help to protect it." Jai-Ho nodded. Everything was falling into place. The council had spent centuries building walls between species, creating artificial dependencies, forcing everyone to go through them for even the simplest cooperation. Now those walls were crumbling. His personal device buzzed with a message from Du-Won Lee. "The avalanche has begun." "Well done." Jai-Ho finally allowed himself to relax. His grandfather had been right about one more thing. The truth, once released, could never be caged again. The galaxy was about to remember how to be free. Commander Sun Mi Kang stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Hope, watching 3 alien warships approach. Just 2 weeks ago, These same ships had been conducting threatening exercises along Earth's trade routes. Now they were coming with their weapons powered down and their shields lowered. "They're hailing us," her communications officer reported. Sun Mi nodded. On screen, the alien captains appeared together. The tall, bird-like Avis captain, the scaled Draken leader, and the crystalline Luminar commander. All three had once been feared enemies of Earth. All three now looked nervous. "Commander Kang," the Avis captain spoke first. "We come seeking Earth's protection." Sun Mi kept her face neutral, but her mind raced. These three species controlled key strategic positions in their sector of space. The Council had used them for centuries to keep other races in line. "Protection from what?" she asked, although she already knew the answer. "The Council demands we attack the independent worlds." The Draken captain's scales shifted colors as he spoke. "They want us to stop the trading ships, to force everyone back into their control. And if we refuse," the Luminar commander added, her crystal form flickering with worry, "they threaten to destroy our world's defense systems." On a side screen, Sun Mi noticed a message from Earth Command. "Help them." She smiled. "Your worlds will be protected. Earth keeps its promises, unlike some others we could name." The relief on their faces was clear, even across species, but there was more happening here than just a military alliance. At that same moment, in the massive shipyards orbiting Mars, industrialist Tai Young Choi was giving a very different kind of tour. "This is our automated manufacturing system," he explained to representatives from 20 newly independent worlds. "It can build everything from medical supplies to starship parts. And yes, we're offering the complete technical package to our allies." One of the representatives, her tentacles waving with excitement, spoke up. "The Council told us such automation was impossible, that it would destroy our economies." Taeyun walked them to a window overlooking Earth. "Look down there. Our people work fewer hours than ever, but they're more productive and happier. Automation didn't destroy us. It freed us to pursue what we really love." His foam buzzed. Another dozen worlds were requesting access to Earth's industrial technology. He smiled, remembering how the Council had tried to restrict Earth's manufacturing capabilities just 50 years ago. Back on the Hope, Sun Mi was finalizing the protection agreement with the 3 former enemy fleets. Her tactical officer had just finished plotting joint patrol routes when new alerts flashed across the screen. "Commander," her sensor officer called out. "Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. It's the Meridian Defense Fleet." The Meridian ships appeared, their sleek forms sliding into formation alongside Earth's vessels. Their admiral's message was simple: "We stand with Earth. Our ships are yours to command." Sun Mi's bridge crew cheered. With the Meridian's help, they could protect twice as many trade routes. Her personal screen lit up with a message from Tai Young Choi. Military protection and industrial independence were giving them everything the Council tried to prevent. "Well played, Commander." She sent back a simple reply: "Freedom is contagious." By day's end, 15 more fleets had pledged to join Earth's growing alliance. Each brought unique technologies and strategies that the Council had forced them to hide. Together, they were stronger than the Council had ever allowed them to be. As Sun Mi prepared her daily report, she thought about how quickly everything had changed. Just a month ago, these species had been suspicious of each other, kept apart by Council rules and fears. Now they were learning to trust again, to work together, to build something new. The Council had spent centuries telling everyone they needed to be controlled. Now they were discovering just how wrong that was. Yoon Seo Ba was working late in her office at Research Station Omega when the alarm started. Red lights flashed across her screens as 6 Council warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel less than a kilometer from the station. "All personnel to emergency stations," the computer announced calmly. "This is not a drill." Yoon Seo didn't rush. She saved her work, closed her files, and straightened her desk. Only then did she press the intercom button. "Security team, report to the command center. Calmly, please." We've been expecting this. The Council ships were impressive, each one bigger than the research station itself. Their weapons were powered up, and their message was clear: surrender or be destroyed. Yun-Seo walked to the command center, nodding to her staff as they moved quickly but calmly to their posts. No one was panicking. They had practiced for this. "They're hailing us," her communications officer reported. The Council commander appeared on screen, his ceremonial armor gleaming. "Research Station Omega, this is Battle Commander Val of the Council Defense Force. You will surrender your facilities and all research data immediately." Yun-Seo smiled politely. "No, thank you." The commander blinked in surprise. "You are outnumbered 6-0. You have no ships, no weapons. Surrender now or—" "Commander," Yun-Seo interrupted, still smiling, "who said we don't have weapons?" She pressed a button on her console. Around the station, panels slid open, revealing devices that didn't look like any weapons the Council had ever seen. "Quantum entanglement fields active," her weapons officer reported. "Gravity pulse generators ready. Neural disruption grid online." The Council commander laughed. "Your station isn't even armed in our records. Those are probably dummy weapons." His image disappeared as every system on his ship suddenly shut down. The other Council vessels tried to react, but they were too slow. One by one, their engines died, their weapons powered down, and their artificial gravity failed. "Status report," Yun-Seo asked calmly. "All 6 Council ships disabled," her tactical officer reported with a grin. "Their crews are unharmed but pretty confused. Our boarding teams are ready." "Excellent. Remind them, be polite to our guests." Within an hour, all 6 Council ships were under Earth's control. Their crews were safe but embarrassed, especially when they saw the size of the human security teams. "Only 10 people," one Council officer asked in disbelief. "You captured a Council warship with 10 people. Why would we need more?" The human team leader replied. Back in her office, Yun-Seo sent her report to Earth Command. "Council attack repelled. 6 ships captured intact. Request permission to study their technology, though it seems rather primitive." The response came quickly. "Permission granted. Also, well done on not damaging their ships. Our engineers have been wanting to examine Council technology up close." She looked out her window at the captured vessels. The Council had always claimed superior military power, using it to keep other species in line. Now everyone would know the truth. Her computer chimed with an incoming call from Commander Sun Mi-Kang. "I heard you had some excitement," Sun Mi said with a smile. "Need any help with your new ships?" "No, thank you," Yun-Seo replied. "Though you might want to tell your fleet, Council ships aren't as tough as they pretend to be." "Oh, we know. The Meridians just took down 4 of them with their old defense systems, the ones the Council told them to dismantle centuries ago." Both women laughed. The Council had spent so long preventing other species from developing advanced technology that they had fallen behind themselves. "How many more Council ships are out there?" Yun-Seo asked. "Doesn't matter," Sun Mi replied. "After today, I don't think they'll try attacking anyone else. Not when their superior technology just failed so completely." Yun-Seo nodded and ended the call. On her screen, reports were coming in from across human space. The Council's attempt to show their power had backfired completely. The galaxy was learning a new lesson. Sometimes, the quietest species were the most dangerous. Ambassador Haejun Ryu couldn't keep up with the messages flooding his screen. Every hour, new worlds declared their independence from the Council. After the failed attack on Research Station Omega, no one feared Council retaliation anymore. "Sir," his assistant called out, "the traitor worlds just voted to leave. All 12 of them." At once, Haejun nodded, adding them to his list. The traitor worlds controlled major supply routes through 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. Without them, the Council's economic control was crumbling. His main screen lit up with an urgent call. "The leader of the Crystal Worlds, Her crystalline form, glowing with excitement, appeared. "Ambassador Ryu," she said, "we wish to join Earth's alliance. Our scientists have recovered our old portal technology, the one the Council made us abandon. We offer it freely to our new allies." "Thank you," Hejun replied warmly. "Earth welcomes you. I'll connect you with our technical teams right away." As he worked, he could see the massive screens in Earth's strategic command center showing the changing galaxy. Blue lights marked independent worlds, spreading like stars appearing at dusk. Red lights showed Council territories, fading like a setting sun. His personal device buzzed. It was a message from Tai Yum Choi, the industrialist. "The automated factories are ready, starting mass production now." Hejun smiled. The Council's last attempt to maintain control had been economic, threatening to cut off vital supplies to any world that left their rule. But they hadn't counted on human manufacturing technology. On 100 newly independent worlds, human-designed automated factories were coming online. They could produce everything from basic supplies to advanced technology. The Council's economic threats were becoming meaningless. "Ambassador." His assistant rushed in again. "The Mindwave species just made contact. They're offering their telepathic communication technology in exchange for our help breaking away from the Council." Hejun's screen filled with more messages. The forest worlds wanted to share their biological technology. The deep space nomads offered their stealth drive designs. The Silicon Collective wanted to trade their quantum computing advances. Each species had something valuable, technology or knowledge the Council had forced them to hide. Now they were sharing freely, helping each other grow stronger. "Sir," his computer announced, "incoming call from the Council first speaker." Hejun took a deep breath and accepted the call. The first speaker looked tired, his 4 eyes dull with stress. "Ambassador Ryu," he said, "surely you see this chaos must stop. The galaxy needs order." "No," Hejun replied calmly. "It needs freedom. Look at what's happening. Species that never talk to each other are working together. Technology that was suppressed is being shared. The galaxy is healing itself." "But the Council's time is over," Hejun interrupted gently. "You can accept this and join us as equals, or you can watch as your power fades away completely. The choice is yours." He ended the call and turned back to his work. Another dozen worlds had declared independence while they were talking. His device buzzed again. This time, it was Do-Won Lee. "How goes the revolution, old friend?" Hejun looked at his screens. The blue lights of independence now covered nearly a quarter of known space. The red lights of Council control were shrinking by the hour. "It's not a revolution," he typed back. "It's an awakening." A new alert flashed. The warrior clans, the Council's oldest military allies, had just announced their independence. Their message was simple: "We choose freedom." Hejun sat back in his chair, watching the galaxy remake itself. The Council had spent centuries building walls between species, creating artificial divisions and dependencies. Now those walls were falling, and something beautiful was growing in their place. It wasn't chaos, as the Council claimed. It was cooperation, trust, hope. The dominoes weren't just falling. They were building something new as they fell. Intelligence Officer Min Ji-song stared at her screen in disbelief. She had been searching through captured Council databases for 3 days straight, looking for their military plans. Instead, she found something much worse. "Captain Ko," she called over the comm system. "You need to see this immediately." Captain Da-hyun Ko arrived in her office within minutes. He was supposed to be leading a patrol mission, but the urgency in Minji's voice had caught his attention. "Look at these coordinates," Minji pointed to her screen. "The Council has been monitoring these systems for centuries, but they're not on any official star charts." Da-hyun leaned closer. "How many systems?" 47, Minji said quietly. "All with developing civilizations, all deliberately hidden from the rest of the galaxy." She pulled up more files. The Council had been watching these worlds for hundreds of years, tracking their progress. Any time one got close to developing faster than light travel, Council ships would appear in their skies, causing panic and setting their development back decades. They're keeping them isolated, Da Hyun realized, preventing them from joining the galactic community. Min-ji nodded. The newest entry is from just 2 weeks ago, a world called Nexus Prime. They were about to test their first FTL drive. Da Hyun straightened up. Not anymore. Get me Earth Command. Within hours, a rescue mission was organized. The Earth ship Discovery, under Captain Ko's command, led a fleet of vessels from 6 different species. Each ship carried scientists, diplomats, and aid workers. They arrived at Nexus Prime to find Council ships in orbit, preparing to stage another alien invasion to frighten the population. Council vessels. Da Hyun's voice was calm but firm. Leave this system immediately, or we will remove you. The Council ships, remembering what had happened at Research Station Omega, fled without firing a shot. On the planet below, the people of Nexus Prime were about to have a very different first contact than the one the Council had planned. This is Captain Da Hyun Ko of Earth. He broadcast to the planet's main communication centers. We come in peace and friendship. Your world has been kept isolated by others who feared your potential. That ends today. The response from the surface was cautious but curious. Within hours, their leaders had agreed to meet. Meanwhile, Min-ji coordinated rescue missions to other hidden worlds. Each ship in their fleet took responsibility for a different system. The Meridians went to help a water world developing underwater cities. The crystal worlds made contact with a species just beginning to explore their solar system. Message from Nexus Prime, Min-ji called out. Their leaders had been shown the Council records, proving how their isolation had been engineered. They want to join the Alliance, she reported with a smile, and they're offering to help contact other hidden worlds. Da Hyun nodded. Each new world they found had something unique to offer. Nexus Prime had developed amazing clean energy technology. Another world had solved complex biological problems. A third had created incredible art and music that the galaxy had been denied for centuries. Report from the Crystal Worlds, Min-ji announced. They found 3 more hidden systems, all with civilizations close to achieving spaceflight. Send help to all of them, Da Hyun ordered. No more worlds left behind. No more artificial isolation. As their ships moved from system to system, they found the same story everywhere. Worlds full of potential, kept apart by Council fear. But now they were being welcomed into a very different galaxy, one where cooperation replaced control, where sharing replaced fear. Min-ji's screen lit up with another message from Earth Command. Keep going. Find them all. Bring them home. She looked out at the stars, thinking about how many more hidden worlds were waiting to be found. The Council had tried to keep the galaxy divided and afraid. Instead, they had created 47 new allies for the free worlds. 47 new voices eager to join the chorus of independence. The stars weren't hiding secrets anymore. They were lighting the way to freedom. Council Elder Jin Woo-nam walked through the empty halls of the Council chamber, where once hundreds of species had gathered to seek the Council's permission for everything. Now only a handful of representatives remained. The sound of his footsteps echoed in the silence. His communication device buzzed. The message was encrypted, sent through channels even the Council didn't know about. Everything is ready. It's time. Earth Command. Jin Woo smiled. For 20 years, he had worked as a secret ally of Earth, gathering evidence of the Council's darkest plans. Today, he would reveal the final truth. He entered the Council chamber. The remaining Council members, barely 30 where once there had been 300, turned to look at him. The first speaker was in the middle of another angry speech about maintaining order. Elder Nam, the first speaker, acknowledged him. Perhaps you can help us plan our response to these rebels. No, Jin Woo said simply. He walked to the center of the chamber. Instead, I will tell everyone the truth about Project Stagnation. The first speaker's 4 eyes widened in shock. Several other council members suddenly looked very nervous. That project is classified at the highest level. One elder protested. Even speaking of it is forbidden. Jin Wu nodded. Yes, because if anyone knew what it really was, the council would have fallen centuries ago. He pressed a button on his device. The chamber's main display screen came to life, showing documents that even most council members had never seen. Project Stagnation, Jin Wu's voice carried clearly through the chamber, was created 800 years ago. Its goal was simple: to prevent any species from becoming too advanced. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. Jin Wu continued, his voice growing stronger. Every time a species made a breakthrough, the council found a way to stop it. They called it maintaining stability. In truth, it was fear. Fear that someone might grow strong enough to challenge council power. These are lies, the first speaker shouted, but his voice shook. Really? Jin Wu smiled. Then explain why the council's own technology hasn't improved in 3 centuries. Explain why we keep using the same ships, the same weapons, the same tools, even when we know better ones exist. He showed more documents, research that had been suppressed, innovations that had been banned, progress that had been deliberately stopped. The council didn't just hold other species back, he revealed. They forced their own member worlds to stay primitive too, all to maintain control. One by one, the remaining council representatives stood up and walked out. Each one sent messages to their homeworlds as they left. More declarations of independence. You fool. The first speaker's rage finally broke through. Without the council, without control, there will be chaos. No, Jin Wu replied calmly. There will be growth, progress, freedom. He looked around the nearly empty chamber. The very things you feared most. His device buzzed again. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy. The last council loyal worlds were declaring independence. Even the council's home system was breaking away. The first speaker slumped in his chair, all 4 eyes closed in defeat. What have you done? I helped fix a mistake, Jin Wu answered. One that's lasted far too long. He walked to the exit, then turned back one last time. The council tried to keep everyone weak, thinking it would make them easier to control. Instead, it just showed them how strong they really were. As he left the council chamber for the last time, Jin Wu sent a final message to Earth. It's done. The council is no more. The reply came quickly. Thank you, old friend. Come home. The real work is just beginning. Jin Wu looked out at the stars through the station's windows. For the first time in centuries, they seemed brighter somehow, as if they too were celebrating their freedom from council control. The age of stagnation was over. The age of progress could finally begin. 1 year after Earth walked away from the council, Du Wanli stood at the podium in the newly built Summit Hall on Earth. Below him, representatives from 200 worlds filled the circular chamber. Some floated in anti-gravity fields. Others stood on special platforms. A few appeared as holograms. Each one represented a free, independent civilization. Welcome, Du Wan said simply, to the first summit of free worlds. The chamber erupted in cheers. Species that had once been enemies now sat side by side. Worlds that had been hidden by the council now proudly displayed their flags. Han Byul Kim, no longer a junior diplomat, smiled from her seat among the Traitor World's delegation. The markets she had once watched collapse were now stronger than ever. Free trade and shared technology had created a golden age of commerce. Commander Sun Mikang stood with the combined defense fleet representatives. The council's warships were now museum pieces, replaced by vessels that combined technology from dozens of species. No single power could threaten the galaxy again. Yum Xiaoba sat with the Science Council, where researchers from every world shared their discoveries openly. The old council's restrictions were gone. Innovation flourished everywhere. 1 year ago, Du Wan continued, We chose freedom over control, progress over stagnation, trust over fear. He looked around the chamber. Some said this would bring chaos. Instead, it brought cooperation beyond anything we imagined. He pressed a button, and the chamber's displays lit up with images from across the galaxy. The Crystal World's portal network, now connecting 1,000 systems. The Mindwave species teaching their telepathic science to others. The hidden worlds of Project Stagnation, now full members of the galactic community. Automated factories producing abundance for all. New ships exploring parts of space the Council had declared forbidden. The Council tried to keep us apart, 2-1 said. They said we weren't ready for true independence, that we needed their guidance. He smiled. They were wrong. Ambassador Jaiho Park stood up from his seat. I propose our first official act, he called out. A declaration that no species may be held back, that all have the right to grow, to learn, to advance. Seconded, came the voice of Jin Wu-Nam, the former council elder who had helped expose their lies. Let us make sure no power ever tries to control others as the council did. The vote was unanimous. The Terran Accords were signed then and there, their first line shining on screens throughout the chamber. All sapient species advanced together, or not at all. As the celebrations began, Du-One's device buzzed with messages from old friends. From Han Baiol, the markets are already responding. New trade deals being signed everywhere. From Sun Mai, defense fleets reporting in. All borders secure. Everyone's playing nice. From Yum-Seo, research teams are sharing everything. The breakthaws are amazing. From Minji and Dadhyun, 3 more hidden worlds found. They're joining next week. Do-Won looked out at the chamber again. A year ago, he had walked out of the council chamber, taking the biggest gamble of his life. Now he watched as the galaxy remade itself, better than anyone had dreamed possible. His assistant approached with more good news. Sir, the first joint exploration fleet is ready to launch. They're going to map the regions the council kept restricted. Who's leading it? Du-Won asked. Everyone, she replied with a smile. Every species contributed ships and crew. They say it's a symbol, exploring the unknown together. Do-Won nodded. The council had ruled through division and fear. Their replacements would lead through unity and hope. As the summit continued, ships across the galaxy displayed a new symbol, Earth's simple image of joined hands, modified to include appendages from all known species. Below it, words in every language spoke the same promise. Forward together, forward free. The age of the council was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And somewhere in the great dark between the stars, new civilizations were emerging, growing, reaching for the heavens. This time, they would find not fear and control waiting for them, but welcome and friendship. The galaxy had finally grown up.